eventually, because you confirmed that Mr. Behari did not partake. So instead of 4, you now had 3 people. Now, can you just explain what it means that the HOD SRAC does not indicate whether she approves or disagrees, and what is the consequence of that?
Chair, again, it's part of continuous improvement. You will realize in majority of documents that will have, sometimes a person won't tick, sometimes you will find out it ticks, doesn't even put a signature. But sometimes when we audit, we follow those things up. But one thing I can tell you, it didn't mean that she was not recommending the candidate.
Does it mean she recommended the candidate?
Yes.
Why do you say that from this
because
document?
We'll elaborate. Remember, before we decide that the first choice is Mr. Mkhwanazi, for instance, if we said its first choice is Mr. Mkhwanazi, the second choice is Mr. du Plessis, it would have been a collective decision of the panel.
And where do we see that in this document? I mean, there's a reason you've got this document as a record of what happened. Now, it doesn't tell us on this record what her position was on either candidate.
Chair, I think because she signed and it said their first choice, probably she agreed. Yes, it was an oversight on her not to approve and not to put the telephone number. But she signed there, and it means she agreed with the appointment of the candidate. I don't recall.
If she didn't agree with it, would she not have signed? If she had ticked not approved, are you saying with that explanation that therefore she would not have signed this?
I get what you're saying, that she should have put approved or not approved.
No, she didn't put that.
Yes.
You say her signature signifies that she approved. And I'm saying the inverse, if you're correct, then the inverse would be true, which is if she had disapproved, she would not have signed. Is that what you're saying?
Chair, remembering the events, we all agreed on the recommendation of Mr. Julius Mkhwanazi, according to that document. If why she didn't tick, I think, and not put her date, it's one of those sometimes errors that people will make. And in the inferences on balance of probabilities, I'm talking on the probability, Chair, that Julius's name is there. And if you check the scoring, Chair, Isaac Mapia scored Mr. Mkhwanazi 21, Ms. Zanele Katembo scored Mkhwanazi 20, I scored Mkhwanazi 21.
Okay.
So you can see there, and then du Plessis, Zanele scored du Plessis 17. Yes. So on balance of probability, okay, should have agreed here.
I think that does answer me, your reference to the scoring. Now, a different question relating to this promotion. Brigadier Mkhwanazi was being promoted to obviously a senior position with different responsibilities. You're nodding?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. And do you not, when I say you, I mean the city, does it not conduct competency assessments for now he's moving to a completely different position? Is that not part of what you do?
For the divisional heads, and the deputy chief of police is also at a divisional head, Chair. And we do conduct psychometric assessments, and they were also conducted for Julius Mkhwanazi.
Okay. The evidence that we have is none was conducted.
Chair, I did see that. I think in the chief statement, yes, or one of the statements, they did say that.
And you don't address it in your statement because it's quite a serious thing to say, because effectively it says the appointment was the promotion was an irregularity. That's the effect of it, that it was an incomplete process. In fact, let me remind you what Chief Mapiaye said in his evidence. He said, the panel conducted this interview, you scored the candidates, there was the next step, which is a competency assessment, which you've just confirmed would happen. And according to him, once the results are out, then the panel finally makes its determination depending on the results, because the competency result may well say is unsuitable for the position. And that whole step of a competency assessment and further process did not happen. And yet, you wrote and recommended his appointment to the city manager.
Chair, there's so many articulations that the chief made in his statement, and if I didn't address this part, it must have been on different versions that we keep on changing. I should have addressed it. Chief, he even says he's the only appointing officer. I couldn't understand what he says that, because with different documents that the city has, that's not true. In this instance as well, Chair, once we have made this recommendation, the issue of psychometric assessments, it becomes, it's quite a clinical process, Commissioner Baloyi. I think you will know from the psychological point of view that it's quite a sensitive process. When you go there for assessments, the psychometrists there, they tell you, the candidate itself, don't ask HR, don't ask anyone, come back to us. Successful or not successful, once the appointment has been made, you speak to us. That's the first issue. And the second issue, as much as I'll share documents, I think it's one of the documents I was very skeptical to share, because I don't share this document even with council in the council meetings. It's between myself and the psychometrist in the city. I think we've got 3 psychometrists, but I share with one psychometrist because she has to do a talent management and plotting process. So she's the only person who gets this process, this document. I don't know any HOD who can attest and say they've ever seen this document. Nobody sees those documents. And majority of time, it's meant for to identify the gaps and see how you can sort them, and for HODs, even for remuneration purposes. So I don't want to agree when Chief says he expected to see this document.
No, he didn't. I didn't say he said he expected. I said he says that Commissioner Mkhwanazi was supposed to undergo an assessment, a competency assessment. That didn't happen. In fact, what he says in his statement, let me read it for you. He says, the HOD, so what he says, at the conclusion of the interviews, both candidates, as is the norm for appointments at that level, were to undertake competency assessments, at the conclusion of which the panel would reconvene and make a final evaluation based on the interview scores and the competency assessment results, and thereafter recommend the successful candidate for appointment. The HOD HR never reconvened, this is paragraph 67, never reconvened the panel for the purpose stated above. And of course, he does say, I have never seen the competency assessment result of either candidate and do not know if either undertook such assessment. I can confirm that the interview panel thus never completed its task and never did it recommend the appointment of any of the 2 candidates to the post. So first, let me correct myself where I said to you he never said that he did not see he has not seen the competency assessment results. He does say that. But the more important part is he says you never reconvened, 1. And then 2, he says, the panel would have taken into account the interview scores and the competency assessments, and then on the basis of both, a recommendation would then be made whether to appoint the person to the position or not, and that never happened in this case.
Thank you. We're looking at this document. If you see in this document, there is no first and second choice. There's only one choice, Chair. And if the intention was to recommend that both candidates would normally, sometimes you recommend even 4 to go for assessments, depending for whatever reason if they scored the same. In this instance, one person is recommended, Julius Mkhwanazi. There is no second choice. And number 2, I'm still
No,
reiterating.
in the document, there's no recommendation. Let's represent it properly. All that the document contains is the scores of the candidates. It doesn't say any one of them unless I'm not seeing it.
Chair,
Or
this
it
is
says
the
first
document
choice. You say first choice. You say your first choice is Mr. Mkhwanazi, yes. That's what you say?
Chair, if you read the document from top, it says interview summary and recommendation.
Yes.
Then just before first choice, Chair, it says recommended candidates or applicant's name,
Okay.
right? Then below that table, then it's the reason it's there is to ensure that whoever you recommend, let's say they scored the same, you then put them there. Then from the psychometric assessment, you can make a decision that both on these 2 candidates who scored the same, who do you take?
Yes.
In this instance,
And
Chair,
who makes the decision about finally taking into account the psychometric? You've just said you would take into account the psychometric results, right? The competency assessment results, and then you would say we appoint. Who makes that decision?
Chair, the decision is made through this process. This process is concluded, right? Then you say you take the candidates for psychometric assessments. And the reason for that is, I'm saying if there's 2 that's got the same, you can recommend and say, this is your first choice, this is your second choice. And then from the results of the psychometric assessment, then you are able to look at the gaps. But we never reconvene. It's the decision that is made based on this. Appointment is based on this.
So maybe let me ask more directly. If General Mkhwanazi, Commissioner Mkhwanazi, scored 0, I don't know what are the scores of psychometric testing. I think we know from another forum, discussion in other forum, not City of Ekurhuleni, that there is a negative and a positive outcome, and frequently referred to as pass or fail. Now, if the psychometric assessment of Commissioner Mkhwanazi, which you say is known only by you, not the other members of the panel, if it comes back and it's negative, which means it's not supportive of his elevation to this new position, what happens in that case?
We hardly get to a situation. I think the metrics we use in terms of assessment is got basic, advanced, superior, and competent. When you score basic, majority they are. I've spoken to this matter even at the mayoral level. You do get candidates even at an HOD level who score basic, but what we do, we check your strength and we check your weaknesses. And then the reason I transferred this document to the psychometrist lady, she's the one who will then develop your individual development plan so that it's aligned. So we do appoint people out of all those 4 categories. It's just that
even when they have scored basic?
Yes, it's just that when they score basic, that's where you must force that the IDP, the development plan of that individual must be aligned now with this. If you score competent, you then do your own development plan. We don't focus on it.
Whether Commissioner Mkhwanazi scored basic, which you say is the lowest, or not, only you would know.
Only
That's
me
what
and
you're
the
saying.
psychometrist will know.
No, I'm saying for purposes
Here,
of
it's me.
recommending
Yes.
a promotion.
Yes.
So we would have to rely on you having been satisfied
Yes.
that he should be promoted, whatever the outcome of that score
Yes.
is. Okay, that's fine. So you deny that he never went for an assessment?
Chair, as I say, it's a sensitive document. I can just show you the first page and the second page. That's all I can show you.
And
They
that's the
should-
result of his assessment?
Yes,
Is that what
and
you're
the
saying?
psychometric house, I don't know if they will still have it or they can even release it, but it's really not true. Hence, I'm saying no HOD I give this to. Hence, I didn't even put it in the pack.
Okay. And that is part of the documents before us?
No.
I think it has to be, because serious allegations have been made. We do have a system of redacting the information, but I'm going to ask the evidence leaders to get a copy of that document so that we have it in our records.
Chair, on that, because as I say, we don't share this document even with council, what I normally do, I will share with you the certain pages, not the ones that, for instance, describe the employees' certain assessments, but page 1 and page 2 I will share. Also the page, I hope I won't get into trouble on this, and then also the page on the competency.
Ms. Kasheka,
Profile.
let me try and be helpful to cut it short. You will have to provide the full document because allegations have been made that he never underwent the test. Your defense or your answer is it was done, and here we have a record of it. It has to be provided. I think there can be discussion with the evidence leaders about how to handle it, to deal with your sensitivities about it. But you've referred to it in evidence here, so it has to be part of our record.
Chair, it's fine. I will discuss it with the evidence leader that it can be inspected. And then beyond the inspection, if it's really required, then I think going to the psychometric house, it will assist. But their details are also here. Thank you.
All right, I'm happy to leave that there. I do have other unrelated questions. The earlier discussion about extending suspension periods, can you just remind me, Mr. Ngqiza, he was suspended for how long?
I can't remember, Chair.
Did you ever have to extend his suspension?
Yes,
You did?
yes.
Okay. And what was the reason that you extended his suspension?
We were looking at the allegations of the labor
His
relations
qualifications.
cost.
His qualifications.
No, it was the labor relations cost, related cost, labor cost, basically.
Yes.
Yes.
And why couldn't he be at work? And maybe let me first explain that the reason I'm clarifying this for the record is because you did not extend the suspension of Mkhwanazi, Commissioner Mkhwanazi, even as Chief Mapie responded and said he will interfere with witnesses. You have told us how fearful you became when you were told about him, and you didn't extend his suspension, and yet another employee you suspended, you extended his suspension, and the 3 months, 6 months debate that you were having earlier on, that you were starting, doesn't seem to have been a relevant factor. So maybe just explain what on the face of it appears to be an inconsistency and feeds into the suggestion by witnesses that in fact you were terrorizing and harassing witnesses who wanted to act against Mkhwanazi. And then this is one of the references that you for no reason, no valid reason, extended the suspension of Mr. Ngqiza when it was unnecessary to do that.
Commissioner, can you respond? There's a witness who says I was terrorizing them.
You were part of Dr. Mashazi's scheme to harass witnesses and pressure, to harass Ngqiza, Mapie, and Spies. But in this case, we are talking about
I would like to see
Ngqiza.
that, Chair, because I want to refute that.
Yes, you can refute it. I'm putting to you what the complaint is. The complaint is you, Mr. Ngiza makes a number of instances where he says that's evidence of you harassing him, sending EMPD vehicles to his family to deliver documents when it was unnecessary. And when he asks, why do they come in 4 vehicles? They say it's Mr. Sheka's instruction that when we come and serve at you, we must bring all the might. We must come in 4 cars. He says that. And then when you sent him your termination letter or something, there were drug enforcement people that came to deliver documents at his house. All of it unnecessary, but meant to intimidate and harass him. That's the sum of his evidence. So,
Thank you.
So my conversation for now is confined to the extension of his suspension in circumstances where someone else facing far serious charges, who is very close to the city manager, that you say you got scared when they spoke about, you did not extend his suspension.
Yeah, Chair, I'm not sure now if I must complain formally. Initially, when we briefed yesterday, and there was an agreement here that certain allegations would not be, implications won't be dealt with. When I wanted to deal with the issues of Mr. Xolani Nxeza, I was cut short here. And I did say that it did look bad outside. But I still complied when it was said cut short. That implication, if I'm not mistaken, is a separate implication. And from evidence leader and from the commission yesterday, there was an agreement that we will not deal with that. And it was concerning Commissioner that it was not dealt with because I really wanted to deal with it.
Okay,
because
Mr.
you are
Sheka,
reminding me now
let me
of the
correct.
implications
No, let
out
me
there.
correct you. Let me correct you. You have no agreement with the commissioners about what you will be led on and not. The only thing yesterday that we were told you would not be led on was to do with the tender. You don't have an agreement with us as a panel. Having said that, allegations were made against you. I would expect you to be happy that I'm putting this to you to answer. Because if I don't put it to you to answer, it remains the last word on this. So I'm quite surprised that you would complain when you are being given an opportunity to respond to what a witness has said about you. Absolutely don't understand it. I'm happy to leave it at the accusation. If you don't want to respond to it, I'll leave it at what Mr. Ngiza said. You can choose which one you want. I can leave it.
Chair, as I said, I was fully prepared to deal with this matter yesterday, and I was told I don't need to focus on it. In terms of that implication, I think he quoted 40-something cars or 86 cars that were taken to his house. And when I give an instruction to be served or request to EMPD to serve, I give to one person, and majority of the time it was Dion. I'll say, Dion, go and assist to serve and come back. In my statement, I said...
Can you please use the surname?
Dion Singh. In my statement, I said, I asked Mr. Ngiza way before that when you are serving, because I'll pick it up when they serve HODs, when they serve juniors, I wouldn't necessarily know how they serve it. And I asked, why are you using police to serve employees? Why don't you use your ER officers? And he then said, ideally they're supposed to use sheriffs, but it becomes expensive to use sheriffs. That's why he's using EMPD. And the reason being that they can trace employees down. There are employees who run away who don't want to be served. And therefore, I'll never take and say the whole crew must go to somebody's house, there he's bluntly lying. If it happened, it was not by my request. At EMPD, I request majority of the time, the maximum number, of the time of the people who will arrive in my office is 2, maximum. Most of the time it's 1. If they see the address is far or they can't find a person, it would be 2. Let's say you did an intention and then the person gives you run around, they would want to go to. It's not true that I've sent so many cars at Kolani's house. He's just exaggerating. If it happened, I wouldn't know. Maybe he's not exaggerating.
Okay.
On the issue of
Extension.
of the
What was my
extension,
question?
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I was
Chair,
about to
discussed
check.
this.
I was still to check whether you remember what my question was. My question was about the extension.
Extension we've discussed for 2 days.
I'm talking about the extension of Nisa. Remember the extension we have discussed is the suspension of Commissioner Mkhwanazi, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the extension of Mr. Nisa's suspension. Because when we were discussing Commissioner Mkhwanazi today, the extension of his suspension, you said, well, 3 months, 6 months, the city manager had an option we could have done, it's the end of 3 months, he must go back to work, or we could extend for 6 months. You don't seem to have made the same consideration when it came to Mr. Nisa. You extended, and that's why I'm asking, why did you treat him differently?
Thank you, Chair. In my response, even yesterday, I've been very consistent in my testimony. Before you didn't have to probe me. I said yesterday, in some instances, we do extend. In some instances, we don't extend. And the reason...
The question is why... No, don't answer generally. Remember...
I'm going to come to Mr. Ngiza.
Yeah, I'm asking a very specific question. I think, take it we know that your prescripts, because we've had that evidence, that you can extend beyond 3 months. We understand that. And take it that we understand that you may call an employee back before the end of the period of suspension because you have completed your investigations. Take that as a given. I'm asking you specifically about Nisa to try and understand, to make me understand what appears to be different treatment of employees. The one accused of very serious misconduct, his boss says he may interfere with witnesses if he comes back to work, but he's allowed to come back to work. Mr. Ngiza, on the other hand, is not allowed to come back to work. He's extended for another 3 months. Can you just explain? And I was just giving you the context in which my request for an explanation is made. It is the accusation or complaint is this was part of the campaign of harassment of people who are seen to be chasing after Mkhwanazi. That's a context in which I would like to understand why him you seem to have treated differently.
Chair, I've said earlier on here, if maybe in the beginning the matter of Mkhwanazi was never taken to Dr. Mashazi, maybe we won't be here. I did say that. The matter of Mr. Ngiza was fully managed by myself. Hence, even other matters in other departments are managed by the department. We don't necessarily have this challenge. If there was no interference on instructions that are given differently from Mkhwanazi in comparison to anybody else, maybe we won't be here. So normally departments, they decide through our guidance to extend or not to extend, depending on the circumstances. So in this particular manner, I was fully involved, and therefore I made that determination. I didn't need to consult anybody. One mistake we're learning from this, probably me and Chief of Police, is when you are given delegations, fully deal with them.
Okay.
Chair, it's highly possible, even if you were, maybe Chief of Police didn't go to the city manager, she might have still heard about it and she would have still intervened. But at least one thing we must learn, when we are given full delegations, run with them
All right.
until we are stopped.
Another question. Why did you become involved in the Chief of Police decision to redeploy Commissioner Mkhwanazi when you lifted his suspension? His boss, who we understand is in charge of deployments and promotions and movements in his unit. Why did you become involved with that?
I've said in my testimony from yesterday and today, if you read, I think the first or second sentence of that upliftment, I said it came to my attention. And I said, I meant that I was told by the accounting officer that once more you are not managing, and therefore, why is this happening? Whereas I've made a decision that Mr. Mkhwanazi must not be, his suspension is uplifted. Why you are not following this?
Okay, so the city manager instructed you to intervene here and make sure that Commissioner Mkhwanazi is returned to his substantive position. Is that how we should understand what you've just said now?
Yes, that's how it happened.
Okay, all right. And then my last question, I think. Yesterday, there are two things, in fact, to it, and I think they are unrelated. I'm going to ask very quickly and hope to get a quick answer. You, yesterday, and in your statement, you say that, I don't have it in front of me, you say something to the effect, we must look at city of Ekurhuleni with a fine eye. You remember you say something like that in your statement. And then in your oral evidence, you said what we have seen or heard is the tip of the iceberg. Now, taking into account our terms of reference, you know what we are investigating, like infiltration of criminal syndicates, cartels into law enforcement. What do you say we haven't heard, which makes you say so far what we have heard is the tip of the iceberg?
Chair,
Because, and I ask you not to put you in a spot, but because we are that commission that is tasked to investigate this, and you spoke in different in different terms. You said we should look at this carefully.
Chair, I've made examples, and firstly, I want it to be recorded. In the absence of the risk threat analysis not being taken serious, I don't want you to have escalating statistics here. It will be a very sad situation that by the time the commission is concluded, the statistics of how certain lives are managed out there have increased. But because I've put the issue in the commission, I've said, firstly, there's about 20 to 40 forensic that are not yet brought to the fore. When I said...
And they are relevant to our terms of reference.
Remember, Chair, I said, because others, I don't think they are relevant, I said before I suspended to the OCMOL, that they must look at having perhaps a mirror task team that would look with issues of Ekurhuleni, where they can give every HOD an opportunity to come and raise their challenges. In the absence of those 40 documents and not forensic reports not being brought to the fore, it's concerning. And people were doing runaround. After doing runaround, I was then ultimately suspended when I keep on pushing that bring these files, let's see them, and where possible, let's close them. There's so many media engagement information that is being shared out there, especially Jeff Wicks and I think News 24. that this commission should be aware of. And because they have not been brought here, Chair, hence I said from the OCMOL, and if they take it up, in fact, I was reprimanded when I said that. They said I'm out of order. If I remember, one councillor said, because I was mentioned in Madla and protest against me. So I'm being out of order to say there must be a task team. Those were articulations, those minutes are available where I was reprimanded. And I was trying to assist Ekurhuleni to say, are we always going to have this commission for the institutional reform to happen?
Is the long and short of what you're saying that there are matters that have not yet served before the commission with the witnesses that have come, which are relevant to the terms of reference that the commission should look at? Is that the long and short of what you're saying?
From those that I've seen in the media space, Chair, I think those people that are implicated in those situations, Jeff Weeks brought this and made sure that EMPD or Ekurhuleni is involved. In the others that I mentioned as well, Jeff Weeks was running with it.
Okay.
And the other ones that are not yet mentioned, Chair, I think Mr. Philip Rakwale should be called to come and talk to the commission that these cases that is having, what are they all about, if it needs to be, because I don't know they are talking to the terms of reference. I want that to be reiterated. My ultimate proposal was to say, Ekurhuleni, clean yourself. Reforms, institutional and structural reforms can be done, Chair, and be imposed, but if they are not done by the institution itself, I promise you it's going to be documents that are left and gather dust somewhere. All these departments that are implicated here, all these institutions, at some point they must do their own institutional reforms, systems reforms, structural reforms.
Okay.
And maybe it's something that the commission might make as a decision that says, after 12 months or 6 months, bring back what we have done to change. You'll impose, but I guarantee you, if it's not done by the institution itself, there's little that is going to come with your recommendations on the institutional reforms. That's what I was articulating to the OCMOL. Thank you.
All right, lastly from me, and it comes again from your evidence, you mentioned Mr. Matlala having met him twice or thrice. I think that's how you started. You said twice or thrice. And then you said one of the times was he had come to you about a woman who had been assaulted or something, to come and speak to you about that. And then there were 2 other instances, and it is the second part that I didn't quite get, because I think you said something about COVID tests or something, if I'm not mistaken. You said something. But I want the second part. So you had the one instance where he came to lay a complaint about a woman who had been assaulted. The other 2 times, what was it about?
The second part, Chair, it was also about an incident, 2 incidents of involving car accidents, where a certain senior person, Ekurhuleni, was protected by certain employees of Ekurhuleni, where he said
when you say senior person, an MMC?
No, an HOD.
Okay.
Where that HOD was then protected by his team, and instead of being tested for drunken driving, he was not tested. But the other person who was on the other car, I think he was highly injured, was then tested. That was the first issue. And that issue...
Is that one of the things that Mr. Matlala came to see you about?
Yes. Then the second issue, he then said that there's decisions that are made by certain individuals in terms of the succession plan of the city manager, where certain names were discussed somewhere, and the person that we are proposing, but I wasn't part of that, proposing to be made a city manager, also has a criminal case pending, but it was put under the carpet by this other senior person who also had an accident. And my response to him was, I need proper evidence to this. And then he said, I'm stalling things. He's going to report us to the public protector. If I'm not mistaken, he even sent me his writing to the public protector. He also wanted the numbers of the spokesperson. It was a lot of things. That's when I then said, I think you're starting to take me for granted, because I guided him and I said, go to the police. Go to the police and speak to the police. HR, it's not a crime prevention or a crime investigation department. We deal with labor relations issues. Then he attacked me. Then that's when I told him where to get off.
Okay. It's quite interesting that he would want to have he has an interest in what the city is planning to do about a city manager. What was his relationship at that time when that conversation about the succession of the city manager? Did he have any relationship with the city, whether business or other form?
I can't recall at that time. I can't recall. As I say, I just dismissed him.
Okay.
I can't recall.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shek.
Thank you.
Why would he come to head of HR about these issues? What do they have to do with HR?
My suspicion at the time, now that I linked the thing, because if you remember, I said yesterday, I listened tentatively, with full attention of what is this person all about. My own assumption is that he was trying to protect Mr. Mkhwanazi, in the sense that you guys are dealing with Mr. Mkhwanazi, but you're not dealing with other people in the city. That's when I told him where to get off, and I said, go and do what you need to do.
And more or less, when was this?
I can't recall
Not
the event.
the exact month, but just, is it 2023? Is it 2022? Is it?
It was around December 2024, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
Not December, sorry, Chair, not December 2024. It could have been around August or September, October. It was before December. Because if I listen there, oh God, I hope I'm going to be protected. And I'm listening there, I said, this guy, I tell him where to get off. After that, he gets arrested. Because he even said to me that I have drones. I'm going to put cameras in your house and I will know what you're doing. And my response was, you can put them wherever you want as long as you don't put them inside my house, before I left him. So it won't be December if he was arrested in December, because I said, yeah, he was dealing with me and life dealt with me, but was not involved in his arrest. I never followed it up. Even in the 3 or few occasions I met with him, it was just casual and then pressing on these issues that I said must refer to the police.